All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, this is me, Erik Gross. I'm a senior level software developer. I've got decades of experience developing software and programming and teaching technology concepts. A lot of that began many, many years ago in the Navy. I was a nuclear reactor operator, actually. At like 20 years old, they trusted me to operate a nuclear reactor. I don't know why. That was probably a mistake on their part. And that's also where I found out that I really enjoyed teaching. I'd never taught before, and they asked me to be an instructor after I went through the program and taught electronics and computers and nuclear power and a bunch of nerdy stuff. And many years later, about a little over a decade ago, I co-founded the Tech Academy, the organization that puts on these free classes. We have an assistant in the chat. You'll see Caris in there. And her job is to monitor the chat, answer any questions. Please be nice in the meeting. We hardly ever really have a problem with this, but if you're a problematic student, she'll just boot you because everybody else is here to learn. So speaking of chat, use it liberally. I try to watch it all the way through as as I'm doing the class. And while Caris is monitoring it really closely, especially when we get into some of the actual meat of the workshop, I like to watch it for questions. Pop any questions you want inside of chat. I'll try to take care of them as we go. And at the end, we'll have a little Q&A. So if I missed anything, I'll be able to take care of it. And I know everybody has already dropped into chat where they're from. So basic agenda, we'll have a short explanation of the Tech Academy. Again, we're putting on the classes. And we'll have a workshop about AI. And time permitting, we'll have that brief Q&A session I talked about. And then we'll give you some information about our boot camps. If, we get a wide variety of people attending these classes, but if you're at all interested in getting into technology, we'll have some information about that at the end. And there is a free gift, so please stick around. It's a nice gift. We'll send it out right to your house. It's really, really cool. Whole class should take about an hour, hour and a half tops. This particular class takes about an hour. So first of all, I just want to talk about the Tech Academy. We deliver what are called coding boot camps. Now, do me a favor, everybody, go to chat. And if you're familiar with what a coding boot camp is, drop a 1 in chat. If you're not really familiar with coding boot camps, drop a 2. And drop a 1 if you're familiar with coding boot camps, and a 2 if you're not really quite sure. Got some 1s, got some 2s, several 2s. Okay, cool. So first of all, in the grand scheme of the technology industry, coding boot camps are relatively new. They only started about 11 or 12 years ago, right? And what they are is one more route into technology. Before coding boot camps, it was really go to college and break into tech, or be self-taught and break into tech. But now there's boot camps, and boot camps are intensive technology certification programs that are designed to prepare people for entry-level positions in tech. Boot camps typically last anywhere from around 3 to 6 months, some of them are longer, but they focus on practical modern skills, what you need to get hired right now. At this point, we've been offering thorough, budget-friendly, flexible, trusted coding boot camps for, as I say, over a decade. These programs are cost-effective. They're self-paced, which is kind of unique. They're fully online, and they're tailored for beginners, for people that have no prior technical or coding knowledge. They cover in-demand skills for the tech industry. They're endorsed by stellar online reviews, and they're designed to fit around your personal schedule because people have lives. And we work to prepare you for a technology career with a really well-rounded toolkit, if you will. Nationwide, again, this is just some background on boot camps. Nationwide in America, the average cost of boot camps is around $13,500. Ours are well under the national average. In fact, we have boot camps that start as low as $59.80. And this all revolves around our mission statement. And we have a mission statement. We've had it since 2014. It is to graduate entry-level technology professionals that excel in the basics of their field and thereafter have successful careers in the tech industry and whose actions raise industry standards and surpass client expectations. We like to think that our product is you working in tech. So I want to lay down some, expectations about the class. What you're going to get out of this class is simple definitions for technical terms. We'll explain technology-related concepts in plain English so you can understand them. This particular class doesn't have any actual coding. We do have regular coding classes. And in fact, you can register for our next coding class on Meetup. Carissa, if you could find the link to our next free class and drop that into chat, that would be awesome. There you go. So yeah, sign up for our next free coding class. If you're relatively new to coding, they're a lot of fun. You actually get your hands dirty and do real coding. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to wait a moment to take a sip of water and allow anybody who wants to click on that link and register the opportunity to do so. All right, so let's switch here and start the workshop proper. So this is an AI workshop. Now, again, I like to get a little bit of data. Go to chat, and if you're familiar with AI, give me a 1 in chat. If you're not really familiar, give me a 2. Give me a 1 if you're familiar with AI and a 2 if you're not. Oh, Kairis, the link that you posted was to hosts and panelists, not to the attendees. Can you drop that link again? Awesome. There we go. Apologize for that. Good catch. Thank you. Who mentioned that? Chris mentioned that. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. All right. So let me go back down here. So in terms of the AI thing, I got some 1s, I got some 2s. All right. Now, most people, unless you're under a rock for the last year and a half, I have heard of ChatGPT, and AI is in the news approximately every 3 seconds. So what they don't talk about a lot is what exactly is AI. Here's what AI is. It's the use of computers to create computer programs that emulate human intelligence. And that covers a really wide range of activities, because people do a wide range of activities. But that's all artificial intelligence is just computer programs. But they're specifically trying to replicate the way people think and how human intelligence works. That's what AI is. It covers, you can use it in things like robotics, but you can also use it for things like text generation, media, content generation, right? Because I don't know about you, but whenever I write something or formulate some kind of written communication or even a verbal communication, there's a lot of intelligence. Well, my friends would debate this. There's some intelligence involved. We're trying to get computers to be able to do that. So that's what AI is. So let's go down in a little more detail, okay? All of this begins with actually the basic purpose of a computer. And this isn't something that I've found talked about a lot. We're all just familiar with computers. We all use them all the time. Virtually every single one of us has a smartphone, which is a computer. But we don't really talk about, like, why did mankind even make these machines? So here's the basic purpose of a computer. It is to take in data, to process that data in some way, and to send data on. That's actually what the machines are designed for. You shove data into them, you do something with that data, and then you can send data on. Now, you can take in the data from a variety of sources. Humans can put data in a computer by typing or taking a photo or making a recording or whatever. That's all putting data into the computer. And you can send data on a few different ways. You can send the data to human beings by putting it on a screen, outputting some audio or video, that sort of thing. But a computer can also send the data on to another computer. So computers can cooperate, they can collaborate. But all they're really doing is taking in data, processing it, and sending it on. Artificial intelligence really aligns with that purpose, because if you think about the human mind, we take in a lot of data. and we think and formulate and make suppositions, and then we output stuff, we communicate, we create things. So artificial intelligence aligns with this machine. Now, we'll talk about this maybe in a little more detail later on, but it's important to stress computers are just machines. They're not human. They can't think. They have no life in them. But they're really, really useful to us as human beings. So I've already defined AI, and I just want to hammer home that point that computers can't think. They can only do what human beings have programmed them to do. Now, this whole AI area, the computer programs that are AI, they can be so complex and so powerful that it almost seems like they're thinking on their own, but they're never really thinking on their own. All of their behavior, all the way any artificial intelligence thing works, it only does stuff because some human or many humans planned and built it to be able to behave that way. So I want to cover what are some of the components of AI. Like I've just described it as computer programs that simulate human intelligence, but there are some sectors or some areas, like we'll call them subcategories of AI. The first one, and this is the one most people are familiar with right now at this point in history, is what's called natural language processing. Natural language processing is creating AI programs that can work with natural human language. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's written content, and it's building a program that will intake a tremendous amount of written content. In other words, all the stuff that's out on the internet, right? And you can then take this computer program and it can train itself on all of this written content. It can look for patterns. It can look for meanings. It can look for what's the most logical sequence of words in certain situations. And then you can then ask this program, hey, I am about to cook dinner and I need a recipe for fajitas. Give me a decent recipe for fajitas. Now, the computer's not a chef. The computer can't think. But this natural language processing program has been trained extensively on a huge amount of written content, and some of that content relates to fajita recipes. And so this program can create for you an extremely logical fajita recipe. It didn't think, it just did what it was programmed to do. So that's natural language processing. Another category, or really subcategory of AI, is computer vision. And computer vision is all about making a computer program that can, again, remember the purpose of a computer? To take in data, process it, and then send data on. Well, here, the data the computer program takes in is visual images or videos, which is just one visual image after another. But these programs, this computer vision tool, can take in images and actually analyze them, determine what's in the actual image. It can then, some of them are really sophisticated, change the content of the image. If you pay attention at all to the increasingly hectic political races going on in America, we're already seeing artificial intelligence generated images being put out as if they're real. This is computer vision. This is taking in images and manipulating them, right? So that's computer vision. Then there's machine learning. Now, this one's pretty wild. Machine learning involves having a program that will ingest a tremendous amount, or it'll take in a tremendous amount of data, and it'll be able to analyze it really, really well and look for trends and predict future data, which is pretty cool. It also involves programming a computer to make decisions that it wasn't explicitly programmed to do. You can tell it, hey, take in a bunch of data, and based on it, you make a decision about what to do with that. So machine learning is pretty cool. Then I've already mentioned robotics, another subcategory of AI, which is an interface between computer programs and physical devices, robots, right? And so there's a component of artificial intelligence there where instead of the robot only being able to perform exact fixed actions that it was pre-programmed for, this robot can analyze its present time environment and change its behavior based on the present time environment, hence AI. So that's robots. And then there's cognitive computing. Now, cognitive means of or related to reasoning. So cognitive computing is computer programs that emulate the reasoning that the human mind does. The human mind thinks in identities, similarities, and you can program computers to think that way or to process data that way. So again, it very much looks like the computer's thinking, but it's not. So the reason I bring all these up is because I want to just take this AI concept and break it apart for you a little bit. So you can recognize there's a bunch of different disciplines in there, subcategories, but they all revolve around emulating the way people think, the way the human intelligence works. Now, let's dive a little bit more into this natural language processing because it is right now the most popular thing in the technology industry. ChatGPT started it, but there's hundreds of examples. ChatGPT is an example of a tool that uses natural language processing. And again, all you're doing is making a computer program that can train itself on a truly massive amount of written data. But let's break this apart a little bit because it's worth looking at. This is a tool that many of us have used. In fact, do me a favor, go to chat right now. And if you have used ChatGPT or a similar tool, if you've used it, give me a 1 in chat. If you haven't used ChatGPT or anything similar, give me a 2. A few 1s, a 2, a kind of 1. I like that. Some more 1s, some 2s. Okay, good. So I'm actually going to do a little exercise here to kind of illustrate this. So let me go here. I'm going to escape, and I'm actually just going to open it up. And I'm going to actually do the thing I was talking about before. You are an expert cook. Now, if your Zoom controls are covering up what I'm typing at the bottom of the screen, go ahead and move them so you can actually see what I'm typing. I'm typing in, you are an expert cook. I need a recipe for fajitas. I do not like cilantro. That's very true. I am serving 4 people. Please. Maybe I can learn how to spell. Give me a recipe. All right. Now, we're not going to go through the whole thing in detail, but I just want to show you. It's got some ingredients for the marinade. It's got some ingredients for the fajitas. Ingredients that you're going to serve it with. Gives you instructions on marinating, cooking the chicken, cook the vegetables, combine them, warm tortillas, assemble. Wow, this is a lot of work. All right. Now, if you've ever made fajitas, you can probably look at this and say, oh, this is a fairly decent recipe. This is what's super important about natural language processing. ChatGPT is not a cook. But what ChatGPT excels at, and this is a central point, it excels at predicting what is the next most logical word that I should output. That's all it really does, and it does it really fast. So, since ChatGPT has been trained on bucket loads of written content, and since some of that content relates to being a chef, and some of that content relates to fajitas, it can search through all of that content it has, search for patterns in the sentences, and predict, given the text that I gave it. Because remember, ChatGPT is not human. It has no reasoning ability. It doesn't really understand being an expert cook. What it can do is look into all the data it's been trained on and find all the data that's related to those words. You expert cook. And it can start to look deep into the data that revolves around expert cook as a word or two words. And then it'll take the rest of the words, fajitas and cilantro and how many people, and it'll start to take all that and go, okay, with all those guidelines, and I'm the one that gave it the guidelines, what is the most logical sequence of words that I should give back to the user? And it turns out this is the most logical sequence of words that a person should get. And I want to stress again, this natural language processing tool, ChatGPT, cannot think and is not a cook. Now, it's still pretty amazing. It's still pretty accurate, if you will. But that's a little bit about natural language processing. And again, ChatGPT, okay? All right, let's get back here. And let's talk about computer vision. Now, I already give you a little bit of an example here, right? The idea of taking in, but let's look at one where it's real-time data. What if you have a video that's posted in a public place, a video camera posted in a public place, and it's able to, in real time, process the incoming video data and separate out people from their fixed surroundings and concentrate on the people and analyze facial structures and match those facial structures against known data of people that the police are looking for. I bring this up because this is happening right now around the world. It may not be the most awesome use of computers. People have opinions about it, but that's an example of computer vision. There are a lot more benign uses for it as well. You could, for example, have a video camera over an assembly line at a food processing facility, monitoring, say, the raw material. Let's say it's a fruit processing facility, and it could be literally analyzing all the fruit as it goes by and very quickly identify bad fruit. And you can combine that with robotics and have a robot pick out the bad fruit, thereby replacing a human from having to do the same thing. So this is an example of computer vision. Now, before we move on to some of the other subcategories, I want to discuss a concept of this called an algorithm. Now, I'm going to go back to chat here. My chat disappeared. I need to bring it back. Do me a favor, drop into chat if you want to. Your idea of a definition for an algorithm. What would you say an algorithm is? Okay, good. A set of instructions, a set of logics. I like both of those. Set of rules. Good. These are good. Sequence of commands. These are excellent. All right, now, each one of those is about 75% correct. And it's only because you're missing why, like what they do. An algorithm is a sequence of instructions designed to solve a particular problem. That's what an algorithm is. It's designed to solve a particular problem. Here's a very simple problem, okay? You have a collection of 10,000 students at a very large university, and you need them to display on the screen alphabetically. You're going to create a set of instructions designed to solve that problem. They're all randomly organized, but you need them to be organized alphabetically. The set of instructions, because again, you were all very close. Set of instructions, rules, sequence of commands. That's true, but you have to add on the fact that this sequence of commands or set of instructions is designed to solve a particular problem. That's what an algorithm is. Now, there's no limit to the types of or number of problems you can use a computer to solve, but they all are related to that central purpose: to take in data, to process the data in some way, and then send it on. So if we look at my really silly example of alphabetizing a list of college students, the computer would take in the list of students that's in random order. It would process that data, in other words, sort them so they're alphabetical, and then it would send that data on, either printed out on paper or displayed on a screen. So again, an algorithm, a set of instructions designed to solve a specific problem. That's an algorithm. Now, that'll relate to some of the things we look at next. Machine learning. Now, again, machine learning is specialized artificial intelligence programs that are designed to process data and make predictions about future data from the data ingested. And that's actually really, really valuable. For example, you could have an AI or machine learning program that processed historical records from the stock market and predicted future changes in the stock market. This would be a good example, right? And by the way, students learn all about machine learning and all of these other AI topics that we're talking about on our 16-week artificial intelligence developer bootcamp. You go really deep in all that stuff. Mackenzie, that makes sense. I saw your response. So let's dive into the robot part a little bit. I already gave a couple of examples here. A robot is a machine that performs work in the physical universe. They are electromechanical devices. They use electronics and mechanical devices to get work done. Now, an android is different. An android is still an electromechanical device, but it's meant to physically emulate human physiology, structure, and behavior. So an android is an artificial human in a way. So you might think of it as a specialized robot. Robotics is the study or discipline of using these electromechanical devices called robots to do work for humans. So how does AI relate to this? Well, again, I said this very quickly at the beginning, but I want to open it up a little bit. Robots have been around for a long time. Way back in the 50s and 60s, for example, automobile manufacturers started to build robots. They would perform certain exact repetitive actions on the cars as they went through an assembly line. And all they were doing was programming a physical device, usually like an arm or something, to reach out to an exact point, say on the chassis of a car, and put a weld there or screw a bolt or whatever. But the important point is all of the actions that the robot would take were predefined. They always did the exact same action every single time that they were programmed to. AI changes that because you can use these other tools of artificial intelligence, of computer vision and such, to make it so that the AI program that controls the robot can perceive changes in the physical environment and make the robot do something different than it might have done otherwise. It's not a fixed set of movements on the robot's part. It's got some reasoning or intelligence, or this is the important point, adaptability to the present time environment that robots didn't have in the past. And that's how AI enhances our ability to use robots. And now we'll look at cognitive computing. Again, this is the use of computers to perform actions that emulate how the human mind works. There's a word here that you may have heard called neural networks. Kind of, fancy word, but it all relates to the idea of the fact that in the human brain, there's things called neurons, little teeny parts of the body that send electrical signals back and forth between themselves and millions of other neurons. You can set up computers that operate in much the same way, where the electrical signals are replaced by data that's going back and forth between millions and millions of individual teeny computer programs. And when you do that, and you have those computer, like those little teeny elements, those neuron-like elements, when they emulate the way the human mind works, you can feed a bunch of data into it and ask it to think with or process the data. And so you can apply this massive computing structure, which is all these little teeny like neuron-like programs. You can apply it to a massive set of data and ask it to form conclusions. Ask it to figure out what it thinks the data means, or insights into the data. That's cognitive computing. An example might be that you want to look at like the possibility of different trends that might happen in weather patterns over a long period of time into the future. And cognitive computing could take a huge amount of data relating obviously to weather, but also to other like changes that happen in the world, and start to analyze what's the future look like? What are some options that could change certain trends? And the program could do this kind of thing. And that's cognitive computing. So let's bring this all together. Artificial intelligence is made up of those subcategories: natural language processing, computer vision, machine learning, cognitive computing. But they all, again, have the same purpose, which is to make a machine help us in a specific way. To elaborate on that, to make computers help us by performing data processing that emulates the way human intelligence works, all to help us process data faster, make predictions faster, get physical work done faster like robots, but all in a manner that emulates human intelligence. And that's what artificial intelligence is. It's a wide range of activities, but it's just using computers to emulate human intelligence. Now, we talked about, I even showed you, this ChatGPT thing, but let's break apart a few definitions because it is a very, very popular tool. I use it literally every day now, okay? First, we need to talk about where it comes from. It's a company called OpenAI, and OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT, and OpenAI is a semi-not-for-profit, but now for-profit company, started about 7 or 8 years ago, that has as one of its missions creating an artificial intelligence program that rivals or even exceeds the intelligence of real human beings. And that's whatever it is. You can feel however you want about that. That's part of what this company, OpenAI, wants to do. One of their many products is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is what they call a large language model. That's just one part of that natural language processing thing we talked about earlier. So what a large language model does is kind of what I illustrated. Given a set of text inputs, it can determine what the logical output is. So that's ChatGPT. And by the way, we have a ChatGPT workshop in a couple of weeks. You can find all of our events on Meetup and Eventbrite, which is how most of you arrived here, right? The ChatGPT workshops we deliver, obviously I'm tooting my own horn, they're really good. They're very helpful. If you haven't used ChatGPT, you're giving yourself a real solid foundation. And if you've already been using it, you're going to raise your game in making that tool work for you, to be of more help to you, which is pretty cool, okay? One other thing I want to mention, I've already mentioned the fact that we have an AI developer bootcamp. ChatGPT makes up a really, really significant part of it because it can actually be used as an incredible aid in the engineering space if you know how to use it. And almost more importantly, if you know how to analyze what it spits out to you to determine whether or not you should actually make use of it. And you shouldn't always make use of it, right? So we already did a little bit of example of ChatGPT. I want to give you one more because they're kind of fun, okay? Let me close this and go back. So let's make one that's technical. You are a early in career developer. You want to learn about making an API in JavaScript using the Node tool. please tell me the general strategy, spell it right, to take. Be brief. I didn't spell B, but it figures out what you want. All right, so it gives you a nice brief, how do I get started? Okay. Okay, set up my environment so I can install Node. I need a code editor. It even tells me one. It tells me to create a directory for the project. How to open up, it says I open up a terminal, go to the directory where my project is, and I run some command. Okay, all right. And then it tells me how to make the server, make the endpoints. Okay, all right. This is, and by the way, I've done this particular exercise hundreds of times. This is all accurate and very helpful. But now you want to get a little more nerdy. You're like, well, wait a minute. It talks about Node and Visual Studio Code, terminal. All right. It says create the server, but this is API endpoints. What are API endpoints? Look at how detailed that is. Well, wait a minute. I realize I'm actually 100% sure what an API is. What's an API? Oh, application. Look at how fast I can get clear, succinct, actionable data. And part of the thing I want to illustrate to you here is that knowing how to ask the question is huge. You'll notice if we go back to our very first one I asked, I gave ChatGPT a role, like here's who you're acting as, pretend to be an expert cook. I told them like really what I need it to do, and I gave it some restrictions. I don't like cilantro. I gave it some additional context of how many people I'm serving, and I asked it to do work. You could just say, give me a recipe for fajitas, and you wouldn't get as high quality output from it. In fact, I think if I go here and open up a new one and I went recipe for fajitas, that's all I said to it. And it's okay. It's okay. Now, how do I know how many people this serves? I don't know how many people this serves. Oh man, I forgot how many people serve. Oh, okay. So I am, now you have to ask it again. I am serving 12 people. Oh, so it adjusted everything. And it's fine. I prefer to be very succinct, very give it everything it needs to do as best a job as possible ahead of time. The last thing I want to stress about ChatGPT is what it says at the very bottom. It says ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. Remember, it can't think. And even though you might tell it, as I said here, you might tell it you are an expert cook. It isn't actually an expert cook. If I tell it I'm an expert software developer or you're an expert software developer, it isn't an expert software developer. And so it's up to you to analyze its output and see whether or not it's actually accurate. What that also means, by the way, is it's not the best tool in the world for learning how to code. But once you do know how to code, you can make great use of it because you know what questions to ask and you know how to analyze the quality of the output and see how to integrate it into what you're doing. So just want to give you a little bit more about ChatGPT. Now, I just dumped a lot on you. Before we go on, are there any questions? I'll look at chat. Anybody got any questions about what I just showed you? All right. Let's move on. So it actually brings it. Oh, good. Mackenzie's got a question. Is there any way to make an AI that is thinking? Well, I want to, before I even give any kind of an answer to it, and it is a good question, right? It's pure conjecture and guesswork at this point, Mackenzie. I don't really think so. And part of the reason I don't think so is that a computer isn't capable of genuinely originating a thing. Like, without any external input, just deciding to act, deciding to create. A computer can never do that. Computers, as physical machines, can only ever take action when they're directed to, and will only do the things they're directed to. And I don't know if you notice this about people. We can up and decide to do whatever kind of thing we want to. Sometimes it's logical and sometimes it isn't. And I think of thought and thinking as a creative activity. It's an activity that very often involves originating things just because you want to, without anybody telling you to. So personally, I don't think computers will ever actually genuinely think, right? Now, Tatiana's got another really great point, and this just hammers home the fact that it's an area of a lot of opinions. Tatiana said pretty accurately, thinking is processing of information. So that AI does do for us. And she's right. It does process information. So it isn't an easily answerable question, but not because anybody really wants to avoid the subject. In fact, there's a tremendous amount of work going on in this area. Lots of people want to think about this area and want to confront it. But when you ask my personal opinion, they're not alive. I don't think they'll ever genuinely think. I'm prepared to be wrong, though. And I also read a lot of science fiction. And in sci-fi, there's a lot of AIs that can think. So who knows? Maybe we'll get there. I like that question. Are there any other questions? I love this. That was really good. Ask anything you want to. And if the answer is, am I an AI? No. No right-thinking person would ever create something as silly as me. All right. We're going to move on, but I'm watching the chat. So if you think of something, drop it in chat, and I'll grab it as we have time. I want to talk a little bit more in a little more detail. And by the way, stick around for your free gift. It's coming up soon. I want to talk in a little more detail about who and what we are. For some of you in the class tonight, this might be a good fit. For others, maybe not, and that's totally fine. But I ask you to just look at it and just decide for yourself. What we do is we offer 12 online boot camps. And as you can see, they cover a wide range of technology subjects. Artificial intelligence, obviously, computer programming, website development, cybersecurity, design, data science, video game development, mobile app development. There's a lot in there. In fact, we have more certification programs than any other coding bootcamp on the planet. But what's more important is, how are these programs delivered? What do they look like? This is actually, I've spent the vast bulk of my adult career helping people to understand and get into tech. And so these programs reflect what we've learned over the years. They are self-paced. Very little of the instruction you've ever received in life has been self-paced. You kind of just have to go through at the pace the instructor says, and if you fall behind, sorry, you fall behind. I don't like that. And our programs don't work that way. They're self-paced, but they're also instructor supported. They're really flexible. Students set their own study schedule, and you can start anytime. The content that's covered is really well-rounded. It's very in-depth, and it always reflects what's going on in the industry, because through all of this time period, I've been a working software developer, and we've worked hard to make sure that everything I learned about what's actually being used in the marketplace is reflected in our curriculum. The boot camps, as I said, are also really affordable. They're priced under the national average. But this part's really key. It's one thing to learn coding and engineering. It's another to get the job, right? All of our programs include both job placement training and job placement assistance. But most importantly, the programs are designed for absolute beginners. No prior technology knowledge or experience is required. So you don't have to be a nerd. And we do have we've had a lot of people over the years who actually have a college degree in computer science and end up going through the boot camp, but you don't have to have that at all to get through the program and succeed. We consistently land on every major best coding bootcamp list out there. Our average review rating across all the major bootcamp review sites is 4.8 out of 5 stars. And that's based on student and graduate feedback, which we're pretty proud of. So I just want to, kind of put this question out there. Why would you want to work in tech? People have a lot of choices about what they choose as a career in life. I would recommend it for this reason. One, it's got really good work-life balance, where remote work is actually a real strong component, especially now in the post-COVID years, right? It's also a very creative industry. Even though you're working with machines, the problems you solve require a lot of creativity. And very often it's teamwork creativity. You're collaborating with really other bright people to solve fun problems and challenging problems. So you can take a lot of personal pride in your work. It's also a very stable industry that, you probably know this, it pays well. I mean, it pays well. And if you're working diligently and continue to learn and get better at your job, there's regular increases in pay. And there are very few industries, at least in America and in most first world nations, there's very few industries that can pay as well as technology while requiring as short a runway to break into the industry, which is pretty cool. That said, I want to acknowledge that when it comes to doing a boot camp's an intensive activity. There are certain barriers to doing a boot camp. The first one is the money. Boot camp tuition costs thousands of dollars. It takes a lot of resources to deliver quality intensive training. So it costs money, right? Well, what we've done to help handle that is we have multiple financing options, including a big upfront discount if you just pay for the whole thing up front. And we have monthly payment options for people that have no credit or bad credit. There's an option for everyone. But here's my personal point of view about this. Going into the Tech Academy and getting through one of these boot camps is an investment in yourself. I have personal knowledge of how valuable these skills are because they've helped me make a living and support my family and support the causes I care about for decades. You're investing in yourself by giving yourself skills that are in demand and that not everybody can do, which is pretty cool. So another big barrier to getting through boot camp is the time factor. I mean, there's a lot to learn in a really short period of time. Now, some boot camps have tried to solve this by training people in what they call cohorts, one big group, and they all start class on the same day, and they all move through the material at the same pace. I've seen that lose really good people. You might get snagged up on one particular subject on one particular day. You don't quite get it. And from that point forward, you're just lost a little bit, and it ends up not working for you. We don't like that, the cohort system. We've just found it's not as successful. Some of the boot camps, by the way, they require you to attend in person. Like if you're there in the classroom, they feel like they can get better success rates, right? Our programs are fully online, and you choose your study schedule. What's cool about that is you can study concurrently to holding down a job or, going to school, right? You can balance things. The final barrier to consider if you're looking at doing a boot camp is that you do have to have some technical interest or ability. Do me a favor, go to chat right now. And if you've ever done any coding, give me a 1. If you've not done any coding, give me a 2. If you have done coding, give me a 1. If you've not done coding, give me a 2 in chat. I see some 1s. I got a 2. Give me some more here. I got a 2. Some 1s. All right, some mixed bag. Okay, so it's probably highly likely that if you've ever even tried to look into this coding area, that you may have found that some of the training materials you found seem too hard. I just want to stress that that's not a you problem. The problem is almost always with the curriculum. And it comes about because a lot of technology educators assume too much prior knowledge on the part of the student. It's really hard to remember what it was like before you knew all this stuff. And when you write curriculum, you can assume people know more than they really do when they walk in the door. With our programs, we eliminated that entirely. You don't have to be a nerd with prior experience already. No technical background is needed to enroll because we don't want to lose people, especially right at the beginning of a program where you're learning the fundamentals. If you jump in too quickly and assume people know stuff, you lose good people, people that would make great technology workers. And just on a personal level, I can't stand that. So we built our programs to handle that. So I have some questions for you. And these are personal questions. You don't have to put answers to this in the chat at all. But the questions are like this. Are you working a dead-end job? And I want to be very crystal clear about what I mean by a dead-end job. I don't mean the job stinks. It's horrible. What I mean is that when you look forward to the future, a few years or a decade down the line, is it going to do what you need your employment to do for how you want your life to look? Is there an income ceiling that you see no one rising above? Is the top pay really adequate for what you want to do in life? That would be a dead-end job to me. Or maybe you're unemployed and like, I need a job, but I don't want to just take any job. I want one that I feel great about doing and pays really well. Maybe you want to work from home, like you're working at a job that you might enjoy otherwise, but it'll never allow work from home, either because you physically can't do that kind of work from home or because your employers or that industry just won't do that, right? Technology is very work from home friendly. It got much better after COVID and it hasn't changed. It's really cool. Or maybe it just comes down to personal, like work-life balance. Maybe you want more time with your loved ones. Technology really works well with that. I guess the big question is it time for a career change? And it's up to you whether it is. If it is, Tech Academy is the solution. We are career change experts. That bridge you see there, the orange bridge in our logo, it represents the route into technology for everyone. And at this point, we have over a decade of experience breaking people into tech. How well does it work? Well, most Tech Academy graduates make $30 an hour on average in their first job. If you do the math, that's a $60,000 a year job. And that's where most people start, is right around that range. And it's a big group. It isn't just like a couple of people. We have over 1,000 graduates working in tech now, and it's been consistent all the way through that time period. Touch on it asked, do you provide any books or recommend to get any? Yes, actually, I have a word on books in just a moment. I'm really glad you asked that because I learn in a lot of different ways. I love to learn through books. And so we wrote some books, and I'll cover those in a minute, okay? By the way, these 1,000 or more graduates they have, and it's actually well over 1,000 now, they work everywhere. A lot of them do work at really big companies like Nike or Facebook or Disney or Uber or Epic Games. But most companies in America need technology workers. They need programmers. So our people are working everywhere. And as a reminder, we have open enrollment, so you can start anytime. And I encourage you to enroll now. Now, I will say we are still in July. And so there's a little window of here for you, if this makes sense, to receive some tremendous enrollment gifts. For students that enroll this month, first of all, we have a 50% off tuition discount for upfront payments. If you look at this and it makes sense for you and you can pay the full tuition, it cuts in half. And that can save you between $7,000 and $10,000. It's amazing, okay? Also, if you're in America and you pay up front like that and you need a laptop to do your training, we'll send you a refurbished laptop to your house. It's for you to keep to get through the training. Also, if you enroll this month, there's no sales tax. We'll pay it for you. No matter where you live, we'll handle the sales tax. And speaking of books, we will ship you your own copies of some of our most important books, including our Intro to Coding books, our Computers and Technology Simplified book called You Are Not Stupid, and one of the most important things, our Technology Basics Dictionary, which includes simple, easy to understand definitions for thousands of technology terms. You need a good dictionary. There wasn't one, and so we wrote it. It took us a year and a half. The other thing you'll get if you enroll this month, is our career planning guide. I've never seen something like this, and I've looked. Once you get the job, How do you navigate those first few years of your career to set yourself up well? And that's what this career planning guide lays out, is what to concentrate on in the first 6 months, in the first 18 months, in the first 36 months. What do you put your attention on to build a really solid foundation and set yourself up to do well in your career? You'll also get 90 days, like 3 months of free access to what's called the Tech Academy Accelerator, which is an awesome service where you get access to over 100 educational videos, over 100 educational mini courses, and weekly live workshops with me where we go deep into technology concepts. They're phenomenal. Like right now, we're doing a set of them where we're building a complete API, like from scratch, every single part of it, and explaining every little nuance along the way. It's awesome, right? You get 90 days of free access to that. We're almost done, but this one's really cool. It's really, really cool. You'll get unlimited job placement assistance until you land your first job. Once you complete the program and you've done the training on job placement, which is really good training, as long as it takes you to push through and get that first job, you have full access to all our materials on job placement, to our job placement specialists, to mock interviews and exercises, anything you need while you're in that job search. We're there for you as long as it takes. So if that interests you, then go here to find out more. Kairos, can you drop that link into chat? And by the way, stick around, your free gift is coming. Yeah, so there's that link in chat. And if even if you think there's a possibility this might be a fit for you, go to that link and fill that out, okay? There it is. I got to take another sip of water. Once you fill out that contact form, and it's really brief form, then what follows is a really cool series of steps all about the Tech Academy. There's videos and articles that explain everything about what the programs look like, how our training works, what you can expect, what's expected of you. It's all laid out so you can make a really informed decision. And there's even an optional step in there to just book a call with one of our admissions personnel. You're gonna wait a minute for anybody who wants to click on that. Sam has a great question. Does the job you seek should it only be in the USA, or remote is acceptable? We have students all over the world, right? And many of them are getting remote jobs. I will say this: if you happen to be overseas and you can get hired by an American employer, you're generally making really, really good wages. But yeah, remote work is possible from everywhere. I found that the major constraint around remote work is you want to be close to the same time zone as your employer is about the only thing. Like, for example, in America, most of the time, if you're in a remote job, they don't care if they're 2 or 3 time zones away. If you're on the West Coast and you have an East Coast employer, they'll make that work, right? However, if you're in India, for example, and you want to work for an American company, a lot of people do it, but there's some shifts around how that'll work because of the significant time zone difference. But every employer has different needs, and virtually all employers are hiring some or 100% of their technology workforce as remote now. It's just become more and more and more popular. Oh, Sam, you're in Sydney, Australia. You could work for a remote company in a different nation, but Australia has a phenomenal technology industry, very, very, very strong and very well paying. And they have remote work. So you could just look in your own nation and you can find a really, really good job remotely. I lived in Sydney for 3 months, by the way. It's one of the coolest cities in the world. Done a lot of travel. I love Sydney. That's really cool to hear you're from there. Oh, that's awesome, man. Sam's on a course. Excellent. Nuala has another really good question. How is the market for part-time remote work? Not good. I happen to know because I like to have side projects all the time, right? Part-time remote isn't good. If you're talking about a regular job with a company on a regular basis, they are pretty much full-time or nothing at all, okay? That said, once you have some time under your belt in the industry, you can start to take on side projects, and those are part-time, and you can make really good money. Speaking of the Tech Academy Accelerator, one of the workshops we did a couple of months ago was all about how to succeed with side projects and freelance work. I've done them for decades. I've done them the wrong way a lot of times and learned how to do them the right way. And I laid out all of that in a really, really cool detailed workshop. By the way, when you're a member of the Tech Academy Accelerator, you get access to all past workshops. So you can go back through and watch that one. Once you've had a little bit of time in the industry, I typically make between $25,000 and $45,000 a year from those side contracts. And those are all part-time. I'm not going to hold down 2 full-time jobs. Okay. And Nuala also asked, how about full-time limited gigs? This is a phenomenal question as well. There is a way to approach your career at certain stages of your career where you basically are playing the I'm a contractor game. I did this for about 7 years in a row. Now, I did it once I'd had several years of experience under my belt, but I specifically sought out short-term contracts, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that sort of thing. And again, it was on purpose. And I did it because they typically pay significantly more than full-time employment. They come with greater risk, though. You got to be prepared for budgets to change, and suddenly what you thought was going to be 9 months ends after 4 months, and you suddenly have to get another job. So there's a lot of nuance here. Remember what I said earlier about the fact that I really feel like getting through a boot camp is an investment in yourself? If you've got certainty and confidence in yourself, you can jump into that contractor game and know that even if a contract ends early, you're good, you're in demand, and you'll find another gig. So yes, those are available. You're really going to want to look at after you've been in the industry a few years, deciding to do that. No one's really going to do a short term like that with a brand new engineer or developer. That was a great question, Walla. Other questions? Okay. All right. Let me cover a couple of other quick things before we end off, and I get you your free gift. We have a referral program. Since our graduates really love us, referrals have been one of the top enrollment sources for us for years. But that program is not limited just to our graduates. Anyone who refers someone who ends up signing up for one of the boot camps, they get a 5% commission payment. So in a minute, I'm going to give you a way to email in for the free gift. And you can also email in, if you want to, people you're referring. We keep track of that. And if they enroll, we will immediately send you a 5% commission payment. Now, we talked about books. We have 7 publications, including 3 Learn Coding Basics in Hours books. We have a coding book for kids and young adults. We've got the aforementioned Technology Basics Dictionary. We have a project management handbook that tells you how software is made in simple terms. It's great. And we have You Are Not Stupid. This removes all mystery from computers and technology. It's like almost 400 pages. It took us 2 years to write. It's a phenomenal book, which will just flesh out your understanding of the whole industry really well. So our free gift, it is that project management handbook. This shows you in simple terminology exactly how software is made, because making software is a team activity. It's a collaborative endeavor. It's not one person down in the basement drinking coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning, eating junk food. It's a group of people collaborating. And what we lay out in this book is, what does that look like? What are the different roles involved, and how do they coordinate the work? It's really valuable. Now, we can ship you your own copy of this book only if you're in America. We don't ship outside the United States. But if you want a copy, then email us. Kairos, can you put the email in to chat? There you go. Grab that email and send us an email. Introduce yourself, say hi, and just ask for your copy of the project management handbook. We'll send one to you. You've got to include your mailing address or we can't send it to you, okay? But if you do, we'll send you out a copy. We love doing that. So I'm going to wait a moment for people who want to grab that email. And I'm going to take a sip of water because I'm talking a lot. Thank you all for sticking around through this. Love it. Is there an ebook for this? Do me a favor. Send an email in anyway saying I'm outside of the US. Can I get an ebook version? I don't know whether or not we've got that in PDF form, easily send outable or not. Often they're in a really weird, funky format that we have to send to the printer. But you just check when you send the email in, Sam. That's a good question. All right, so I want to show you how you can like gain access to us and all we do. We use a service called Linktree. Many of you have probably heard of it. It has all of our links for the school in one location. Kyrese is dropping that link in the chat right now. And if you click on that, you'll see all of our links are there. Links to our free educational YouTube videos, links to the books and the dictionary, links to our upcoming meetups, our social media accounts. So please follow us on social media. Sign up for our next class. We'd love to see you in more of these. And I hope I've been of help tonight. I hope this clarified some things for you about the whole AI area. And again, if technology is in any way interesting to you and you feel like there might be a career here for you, then just find out. If you can drop that link in again, Kyrese, the one that's on the screen, just fill out the form. You're under no obligation, but you'll have opportunity to find out everything about who we are and how we work. And if it's a fit for you, it'll change your life. This is a really cool industry to work in. I want to thank you all so much. Kyrese, drop that link in chat, the learncodinganywhere.com/Erik. You're welcome, Tatiana. And I want to also tell you all how I appreciate how responsive you were, how you interacted in chat. All the questions are phenomenal. It's really, really awesome. Okay. All right. That link doesn't include everything, so I'm going to grab it. If I can learn how to grab it. Copy. There we go. We need the Erik part at the end. Okay, good. So there's the proper link. I'll stay on for a moment. Anybody wants to click on that. And seriously, I appreciate you all so much for doing this. It's been a blast. And I'd love to see you at one of our future classes. Oh, I actually know a little about this. Jose says, what would you suggest to learn to work in public policy? I've actually done a number of software projects for people that work in that space. So there's two things about that. The first one involves just the core knowledge. Jose, this is a great question. Just the core knowledge of being a developer. You're going to want to put in that baseline of being a developer. But there's the domain or area you're going to operate in. So while you're learning to code, I would be doing a lot of research to find out what does the technology landscape look like in the public policy arena. Because I happen, like I said, I happen to have worked in that area. There are some distinct differences. When you're working for a for-profit enterprise, private sector, very often you've got access to a lot more current tools in the technology area space. And so if you're looking at working in public policy, it's actually all the more important to do a study program that concentrates on the fundamentals like we do. And the reason why is if you get jobs in that area, you'll very often find yourself using technology that's 5 to 15 years behind the curve, if you will. And you need to be able to take that older technology and shift the way you work and think with it to be able to develop new features for that software, to upgrade it as it gradually falls so far behind that it doesn't work well, right? In addition, of course, because that's your domain of public policy, you're going to want to find out what kind of work do they do? What kind of applications are most in demand, right? So to summarize that, learn the core skills of being just a software developer, and then concentrating on the fundamentals, and then do your own investigation into what kind of technology programs are made in there, what technologies are used, what kind of databases do they use, right? And the cool thing is, a lot of this is available because it's public knowledge or public data. When you look at public organizations, they very often have to disclose what they're doing. So for example, you can go to RFPs, requests for proposals from governments in the technology like area, and they'll lay out, here's the exact technologies we use. Here's the exact reason we're doing an RFP. So you can start to gain data about the kinds of technologies they use. So I hope that helps a little bit, Jose. Does that answer your question a little bit? Absolutely. That was a great question. And you can make an incredible difference as a skilled technology worker working in public policy. Having someone who has, devotion to that area and understanding of the public policy area, and is also a really skilled technologist, you can really make helpful technology decisions and helpful technology solutions for people. That's really cool. I love seeing that. All right. Thank you all so much for attending. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing right now and be able to, say goodnight to you all. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you in our next class.